So hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is James, a British person who lived in Sweden. Today I want to talk about leaving the UK post-Brexit. What that means? Well, for those who don't know, Brexit was a decision that the UK voted for narrowly back in 2016 to leave the European Union. That then made it more difficult for people to, have free movement of labour within the European Union. Now, that doesn't affect everyone else in the EU unless they wanted to move to the UK. But it did affect people in the UK tremendously because it meant that they couldn't leave, the UK for work very easily without having visas or the opportunity for the other country or company to have to advertise the job internally first. So that obviously increases difficulty for the UK, for people in the UK wishing to leave. And yeah, it became a bit of a headache. So I was very lucky that I got a job working for a European company whose headquarters were based in Sweden. This meant that when I joined, I started negotiating with my manager that I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to do a secondment. I was very lucky that the company was very small when I started. So, I was doing quite a lot of work and getting quite a lot of involvement in the work I was doing, which meant it was quite difficult to, I guess, replace the work I was doing at the time. So that meant I had quite a bit of leverage in terms of being able to go abroad because I could prove that there wasn't many people who could do my job based on the knowledge I had specifically about the work I was doing. So that helped me a lot. So that was the first step. It was still difficult to convince my company to do it, just because no one had done it before. I was the first person from the company to second from the UK to Sweden, and to do it post-Brexit and post-COVID was quite difficult as well. But since I did it, a few had followed, which was great, and the experience got a lot easier. But for me, it was quite long-winded. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of waiting for contracts to get signed, and then I had to then, once the contracts were signed, go through the visa application. For that, I need to get all my documents in line, so proof of who I was, proof of work, proof of passport, make sure there's enough time on the passport. Didn't need to go to any embassies or anything. That was all quite seamless. It was all just a lot of paperwork to fill out, and which did take time. And then with Sweden, if you try and go in the summer, be aware that they do take a month off because they can and they should. It's great. But that meant I didn't know my visa had come back until after the middle of July, and I was due to fly out on the 3rd of August, and I was still waiting for my visa to be confirmed. But I found out that on the 25th of July that it was proved on the 17th, but no one was working, so I couldn't find out, which was quite funny. So yeah, that was an interesting point, but it is possible to leave post-Brexit. I would definitely make sure if you do want to leave and it's something you're very passionate about, then do look for jobs in the UK where there's international offices. So any big company, any company which is specifically in a niche industry where they might have offices all over Europe or all over the world, and you're interested in living there or at least experiencing it. And when you join, be honest with them. Be honest that you want to go and explore, you want to do it for this company because you're passionate about it, or, it's an opportunity that can help both the company and yourself to want to move. Some companies might be willing to have you go at a drop of a hat because they want people to go to other parts of the world and support and use that knowledge that you've learned from both sides of the business to help it grow. Others might need a bit more convincing. Therefore, try and write a business case for why it's beneficial for you to go. And that could be to do with, office communication improvements. It could be to do with the work you have to do there. Maybe there's projects based out that office, which maybe there's a few people in that team who are working out there, so it would help in terms of contact time or time zones and everything that you were there for 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on the company and depending on where you want to go. I would definitely look at that. I think if you're British and you do want to leave and you've not got a job, look at working travel visas. They exist in a lot of the Commonwealth countries, which is unfortunate for, they've always been there. It's talking about Brexit, but I did do some looking into, and you can actually get a nomad visa for some European countries. So if you're able to remote work at all or freelance, and you can prove that your income comes from your home country because your business is based there if you're freelancing, then I would recommend applying for a nomad visa. It's not that expensive, and you could potentially then live in Europe or live in one of the countries in Europe and work from there as a freelancer. And then you can start to build networks if you do want to go into a salary job or change your industry. Once you're there, you might get someone to sponsor you once you've learned the language. That would be an interesting method to do. It's something which I wouldn't say no to trying myself in the future, for sure, as an opportunity for someone to have a chance to live and work abroad again. And lastly, if you have a partner and you want to move with them and you get a job and you get sponsored, in Sweden, if you can prove that you live in the same address, then they can go on your visa with you quite easily, I believe. You can get a Sambo visa, which is essentially your partner. If you're married, then it's even easier again. If you don't live in the same address, it's a lot more difficult because you have to kind of somehow prove that you are a couple. It might be worth that if you are looking to move to a new country and you have got a partner, maybe get a joint account on Monzo or something. Maybe look at getting a shared bill or moving your address to their home just for a short while before you move. If you don't live in the same place already, because that makes it a lot easier. I sadly didn't live in the same place as my girlfriend when I moved, and therefore she couldn't come on my visa very easily. And so when she came back and forth to Sweden, she had to do all the 90 days every 6 months, which was quite stressful, and a lot of questions at the border in terms of how many days have you been in the country. And there's tracking services. I'll put them in the show notes. People, if they do want to know about the tracking services for your days in Europe, if you are a frequent visitor to the continent. Yeah, I think that kind of covers most of it, really. And the reason why I started this podcast, well, the main podcast is obviously a bit of fun, was because of these kind of questions of it's difficult. Like, it's not easy to move abroad. There's a lot of things you have to do and think about, and that's just before you even move. When you get there, it's dealing with homesickness, dealing with, time zones from family, long distance relationships, making new friends, sorting banking out, not knowing the language. There's so many different things which I will do videos on specifically, each of them. And if you have any ideas of things you want to know more about, please let me know, and I can either pull on my own experience or my experience from, interviewing many people who've lived abroad now and understanding their perspectives on many things and many places to live. Similarly, if you've seen one of the main podcast episodes and you have questions about them, let me know in comments, get in touch. I can ask them some questions and find answers and get back to you on those and do like a Q&A if that's something you want in the future. Please do just reach out, and hopefully we'll see you next time for the Expat Pod. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, of course.